Hello, and welcome to a very messy Big Muddy Mayhem. This is the podcast where we normally talk about true crime and bad behavior in the Midwest.
Each week we'll bring you 2 stories, but not today, from the heartland that might break your heart. But we hope to entertain you along the way.
I'm Tracey Loofe, and I'm the asshole.
And I'm Janet O'Brien, and I'm laughing at it. Hello! So this is our second time doing our introduction.
Because I picked a story that Janet has already done
2 months ago.
We knew this was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen, and thank goodness it's not for our live. Hey, live show, October 9th.
You should come to our live show. It's October 9th.
I wrote an entire story today that I, upon beginning, realized that Janet already did it.
Remember the horse lady in Dixon, Illinois?
That's right. I have so many notes. So many.
Oh,
but as
so
a result,
funny.
what we're going to do today is Janet is going to read her story, which is a new one.
Yes.
I haven't done. I don't think. And then we're going to do a little Q&A.
Oh my God.
Because some of you have asked us questions. And we're going to talk a little bit about how the sausage gets made.
Right, we're going to talk...
Which is not out of horses that we've done twice. Although, I do have to say, we'll have to put what episode it was.
Yes. It was episode 42.
42, okay.
Yes.
Well, they have a whole bunch of horse names. I found a penny, just a big investment, have faith in money, she scores, secure with cash, packing jewels, and good I will be.
If you don't know what she's talking about, go and listen to the Rita Cromwell.
You do need to listen to the Rita Cromwell episode.
Because it's fancy.
The crime's so nice, we did it twice.
Because nobody dies in it.
I know.
Nobody dies.
I know. She bankrupted a small town.
Yeah, you know.
But nobody dies.
But nobody dies.
Anywhoozleby, this is where we are. And Janet, at least, has brought a fresh story. So where I would normally go first, she's going to go first. And then we're going to take the second half of the show and do a little Q&A.
Yeah, we're going to do a little Q&A.
On some of the things that people have asked us about recording a podcast.
And I actually do get asked these a lot.
I know, me too.
It's just like, how do you do that? Where do you have time? Blah, blah, blah. But we'll wait till after the story.
We'll get there.
We'll get
First, you brought a fresh story. So.
Ow, out of the presses. Ow.
So we're going to go there first.
Okay, we're going to go there first.
I'm so embarrassed. We're coming up on 50 episodes.
Yeah.
Come see our live show.
Yes.
That means we each have to have 100
right
crime stories in our head.
Yes.
This was bound to happen.
It was bound to happen. I've almost, and I was telling Tracy earlier, I have almost done that a couple of times where I start writing and I go, maybe I should look at that list we have. And I'm like, this seems familiar to me for some reason. So,
woof.
Oh, well. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start my story.
Okay.
It's a good one.
Okay.
Okay. Have you heard of Sydney Loofe?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
We're doing good so far. Okay. Sydney Irene Loofe. She was born August 21st, 1993. She was born in Broken Bow, Nebraska.
Okay.
She was raised in Arcadia by her parents, George and Susie Loofe. In the year 2000, they ended up moving to Neligh. It's Neligh. She had Sydney had a lot of hobbies. She loved fish. She was a professional fisher. Like, she was really good at fishing.
Okay.
She was really, really good at basketball, and she played golf. She did basketball and golf through her school. As a teenager, she ended up getting diagnosed with scoliosis, so she had to stop doing the fishing and the basketball. I mean, not the fishing, the basketball and the golf thing.
Okay.
But she continued to do, like, fishing on weekends with her dad.
Fishing doesn't take a lot out of you. I mean...
You're casting. You're sitting in a boat. It's very nice. She ended up graduating from Neeli Oakdale High School. And in 2011, she wasn't quite sure what she wanted to do. You know, as high school students, you don't know what you want to do for a living. So she ends up getting a job at Menards.
Okay.
Yeah. So she is living on her own in Lincoln, Nebraska. Near Lincoln, Nebraska. She works at the Menards in Lincoln. She has a gray tabby cat.
Oh.
She loves pets and she loves
Sweet
animals.
little tabbies.
So she's got a gray tabby. And she figures out in her early 20s that she's really attracted to women. This is, small, not a big city in Nebraska. Not real easy to go out and, like, find somebody same sex.
But you're just like, all right, I'm not into this, I'm into...
Right. But,
And
it's kind of hard to, like, try to find other people in that same situation.
And that's so scary, too, because, like, how do you even approach somebody? Like, hey...
Right. So what do? You end up creating a Tinder app.
I was just about to say, like, thank goodness for online dating.
Right,
that
exactly.
has been so much different.
Right. I'm going to bring another person into this fold.
Okay.
Bailey Boswell. Bailey Marie Boswell. She was raised in Leon, Iowa. She, as an infant, apparently her biological father was murdered. But Bailey, she excelled.
Wait, what? I'm sorry?
As an infant, her father was murdered.
Okay.
So the second person that I'm bringing up.
No, Bailey. So,
Bailey's
so her dad is murdered when she's
like
a baby.
Yes, exactly. But when in high school, apparently she excelled in high school. She was really good at sports. She was apparently the fastest runner on her relay team in high school. And she was so good at basketball, she was offered a scholarship to play basketball at college.
Wow.
So she was really good at it. However, once she graduated from high school, she started hanging around the wrong crowd.
Oh.
She started to get into substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
In 2016, I assume she ended up moving around a lot. In 2016, she was cited for, and Tracy's not going to be surprised by this when I tell her where it happened, was cited for $400 for possession in Cameron, Missouri.
Oh, where is Cameron?
Well, it's in Missouri.
Oh.
It's 2016. You have any kind of paraphernalia on you.
Oh, completely.
What are they going to do? Yeah, so
I had to go pick up a college roommate once because she got picked up for, she didn't even have anything on her, but she had, a pipe in her pocket that had, a little bit of weed residue on it. So obviously a very dangerous criminal that needed to be taken off the streets.
Right. She did end up having one daughter with a Freddie Pennell. Pennell, however, he was physically, emotionally, and sexually abusive to her.
Oh, wow.
Freddie had a really bad drug addiction. And then at one point,
Yikes.
Their daughter ended up they got their custody revoked with their daughter. So the daughter was taken away.
The two things probably had nothing to do with one another. It's just all right, you have somebody that is
Terrible.
A sexual predator.
Right.
And then you have somebody that's smoking weed.
Right. So Bailey ended up moving to Princeton, Iowa to rebuild her life. When she went there, she did not rebuild her life.
Ugh.
She found a defunct website now called Backpage. It's to find sugar daddies.
Oh, I've heard about this. Sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship.
Right. So it's basically a page for sex workers. Now I'm going to bring the third person into our story.
Okay.
Aubrey. Okay, this is going to start to get confusing in a little while. Just Aubrey is the guy. Okay? Just try to remember that. Aubrey. Not with a D like David, a B like boy. Aubrey.
Aubrey.
Right. Aubrey Trail is his name. At the age of 2, he was abused by his parents, and his grandfather decided to take care of him.
Oh.
When he was returned to his parents, his stepfather continued to abuse him.
Oh.
Aubrey grew up in poverty. He moved from foster home to foster home, and then eventually juvenile facility to another.
Oh, God.
He ended up, basically, he was arrested for armed robbery. Things that he would get in trouble for were fraud, theft, and trafficking.
But all he's ever known is abuse.
Exactly. Aubrey was sent to prison as a teenager for armed robbery. And another interesting fact about Aubrey, he basically would get women to follow him because he was a cult leader, a sex cult leader.
Oh, no.
It was the vampire sugar daddy cult.
I'm sorry. Can we just sit for a moment with that name?
Yeah.
The vampire sugar daddy
Cult. And the women below him were his witches.
Oh, God. Oh, my gosh.
So he's a great guy. So basically, the short story of that, we're going to connect Bailey Boswell and Aubrey Trail. Bailey is looking for a sugar daddy. She finds one in Aubrey. And they end up connecting, and they end up in a relationship. He's still a cult leader. He still has other women following him, but apparently she is the top witch in his cult. Okay. So we're going to get back to Sydney, the first person I brought up.
Right, okay.
So Sydney, she goes on Tinder. She was like, okay, this is my way to connect to people in Lincoln, Nebraska. November 2017, she meets a woman on Tinder by the name of Audrey. This is where it starts to get...
Okay.
So Audrey, not Aubrey, not the man, Audrey.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide to meet after sending about 100 messages to each other because, you talk to somebody.
Right, you do online. There's a whole lot of communication.
Right. So about 100 messages in, they're like, we should meet up. And so Bailey asked Audrey, are we going to be the only ones meeting up? Like, you're not going to bring anybody else along? And she's like, no, it'll be just me. So November 14th, 2017, Sydney goes to meet Audrey in a basement apartment that basically that she lives in. So Sydney goes to meet Audrey. They go hang out. They have a really nice date. And immediately it's like, oh, well, that date went well. I would like to see them again. So November 15th of 2017, Sydney decides to go on another date with this Audrey lady.
Okay.
Sydney, she gets off work at Menards. She goes home. She's getting ready for a date. She does this like quick Snapchat, and it's like a picture of her.
I'm getting ready.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going on a date.
Here's my look.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
everything's so cute.
Yeah. So she posts that, and then per this, things aren't going to go right when I say this. Per the cell tower data.
Oh, dear. Oh, no.
We noticed that Audrey's cell phone is pinging going away from Sydney's place.
Where she's supposed to be.
Right. So basically, this Audrey girl comes to pick up Sydney at her place, and then they're going to go on a date.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Now, it turns out this Audrey is not an Audrey. This Audrey is actually the second person I mentioned, Bailey. Bailey, who is dating.
Hold on.
With
all right,
Aubrey.
so
I know, right?
you
Audrey, that is her alias name. It is actually Bailey. Who is dating...
Pretending to be Audrey.
Exactly. And they used Audrey as a play on Aubrey's name.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Wow!
Right?
Oh.
So she doesn't know, she thinks, oh, this is this Audrey girl. And it's not Audrey. It's Sydney.
This will go well.
This will go well, sure. So they per the cell phone data of Aubrey and Bailey, they were like, oh yeah, no, we can see the cell phone, they're leaving her place, and then it just, like, the cell phones get turned off. So, yeah.
Both of them?
I don't know. It didn't really say.
At least hers.
They just know that it gets turned off. They were going to meet at Bailey's home, where Sydney did their first date, but then Sydney ended up having to work that day until 6 p.m. There is a security camera showing Sydney leaving Menards to go to walk to her car because it's the end of the day. And she did return home at 6:30 and made a post on Snapchat about getting ready for her date. Bailey, Audrey, messaged Sydney on Tinder that she was there to pick her up at her house in Wilbur, Nebraska. Wilbur is outside of where Lincoln is. November 16th, 2017. Sydney does not show up for work at Menards.
Oh.
The night before, Sydney's mother did text her and did not receive a response because she didn't know she was on a date. Her mom and all of Sydney's friends are like, she doesn't just disappear. That's not a thing. So they end up sending a cop out to do a wellness check.
Right.
They end up finding her SUV in the driveway. They find her purse and her glasses inside her rental.
That's not normal.
Yeah, they find her cat hasn't been fed in like 12
goodness.
hours, right?
So this cat is like, I haven't been fed in 6
I know they were interviewing the cat. Right. So they end up, they call her cell phone. It goes directly to voicemail, and this is very uncharacteristic of her. Mm-hmm. Now, back at Audrey's apartment, at the same time, because they're renting a basement apartment, and the owners of the house, they live, above the basement. One of the family members of the owners of this house becomes sick from a bleach smell coming from the basement apartment.
Oh, dear.
They also noticed that Aubrey and Bailey were running their AC in the middle of November in Nebraska.
Oh, that's weird.
Isn't it? Isn't it? So now I'm going to go back to the date. Sydney did confide in a few of her friends that she was going to go on this date. So it wasn't like, and nobody knew. And she confided this in one of her close friends, Brooklyn McChrystal. Now, no one knew who this Audrey woman was, right? It was like, okay, she just took off with somebody. You didn't know who it is. And so Brooklyn decided, I'm going to do some investigating on myself. So she takes her phone, downloads Tinder, and starts looking.
Hey, Brooklyn!
And then she finds an Audrey. And she swipes right. And so does Audrey. And she's like,
no.
No. She's doing her investigating. So she has a little conversation. Like, hey, do you think I could get your phone number? And Audrey obliges.
Of course, because why wouldn't you?
And so Brooklyn's like, ha! And gives the phone number to the authorities.
Oh.
So that was a huge break because, she had a good friend who was like, okay, my friend does not disappear. This is wrong. I'm going to find out who this is.
Uh-huh. No, completely. You have to have somebody that's willing to kind of get a little bit muddy.
Right. So 2 days later, the police were able to pin down the duplex, and they went to their apartment, but no one answered because because Aubrey and Bailey had already taken off. They're just gone. They used the landlord's key. They were able to get in. They do smell bleach, but they can't find anything else. They did notice that the walls looked like they were wiped down with bleach, like someone was trying to clean up something. But they couldn't find, there was nothing else in the apartment that screamed something happened.
And, to be fair, if you're wiping down walls with bleach, like, that might just be you want your deposit back.
Mm-hmm. But not enough to make somebody sick upstairs. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of bleach. So, now we're going to go back to Aubrey, the man. Mm-hmm. Leader of the vampire sugar daddy cult. He basically would bring women in by saying, I will pay you $200 a week if you follow these rules. So this is how, you're thinking small town in Nebraska.
Right.
People are really bored. They do
He'll
dumb
take care
things.
of me. I can make a little bit of money.
I can make a little bit of money. So basically it was $200 a week so they could become his witch.
Ew.
I know, right? The rules included contacting him every 3 hours. What's the first rule of trying to run a cult? You wear them down. You don't let them sleep, right? So they have to contact him every 3 hours. They're not allowed to talk to other men, and they have to call him daddy.
Ew.
Right?
Ugh. Gross.
In 2017, some of the newly recruited witches did not want to accept this new rule he came up with, because he started to kind of play around with a new rule that he wanted to see if anybody wanted to do it. And that would be to breathe in someone's last breath. So basically he's asking whoever, is going to be my witch, you have to kill somebody.
That's so weird.
And most of these women who were like newly recruited are like,
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do no. Like, no, I'll be good. I don't need my $200. When Sydney disappeared, Aubrey and Bailey were under a court order to pay $400,000 for conducting fraud in Kansas and other charges. So basically, when Sydney disappeared, these two were kind of on the run already from things they had already done. Because, he's already been convicted of like fraud and stuff like that. So they're still playing the game, and now he has somebody else to kind of help him along.
Right.
They were on the run to avoid paying the charges. November 19th, a search warrant was obtained for their apartment. So the police went in there and they really looked at it, and that's when they found, okay, yeah, bleach on the walls. There's something not right here. Let me tell you about the security footage.
Oh, no! Okay.
There's multiple
cameras?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we know for a fact that Sydney and Audrey Bailey, they went on their first date on November 14th.
Okay.
November 14th, the day of Sydney's first date, at 5:08 p.m., Aubrey and Bailey checked into a hotel near Sydney's place of work. They ended up they went there and had, I guess the hotel was offering a Thanksgiving dinner or something. So that's why they went there to spend the night. And then November 15th, so I assume they did that, but probably he stayed there the night. That way, Sydney and Bailey could have their first date while he's not around. I'm sure that's what's going on here.
This is a lot for a first date.
I know. There's so much happening. November 15th, so they already had their first date. They plan on having their second date the next day. November 15th at 10:25 a.m., remember, their date's not going to be until the evening. Several hours before the second date, Aubrey and Bailey went into a Home Depot in Lincoln.
Insert joke about how quickly things escalate.
Ask me what they purchased before their second date. Before the second date. Remember, Sydney's working right now at Menards. They're in a Home Depot purchasing things.
I know, which is weird.
They purchased a 12-inch hacksaw. They purchased 2 gallons of bleach. They purchased 30-gallon plastic trash bags. They purchased a utility knife with multiple replacement blades.
This goes beyond kink. I mean, like I'm normally willing to just like go along, get along, let everything go, whatever. But this isn't stuff that you're going to use to get freaky in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. This is stuff that you're going to use to like dismember a body.
What? No. What? No. So an hour after leaving Home Depot, they both go into Menards.
They're here to help. And then they went to go save more money at Menards.
So they go into Menards. Sydney sees, oh, look, it's that Audrey girl, and she's coming by. And she walks right past, because she doesn't know who this guy is and has never seen him before, right. Aubrey. Like, so there's security footage where you see Sydney walking right past Aubrey to go,
my gosh.
Like, talk a couple of minutes with
her. You're so close to getting away with your life. Why? Keep walking.
So, Aubrey does cross paths, and then, of course, and you can see this in the security footage. And then he ends up going into Menards while she's outside talking to Audrey. He goes in and he purchases another thing of bleach at Menards. And then he ends up leaving, and you see Sydney come back in to finish her shift.
Oh, God.
At 12:41 p.m., another camera ends up catching Aubrey and Bailey inside an antique store where they purchase food grinders and a folding saw and a weed cutter.
Oh my God.
Nobody's planning anything.
And a creepy doll that just like jumps in the cart just for fun. Right?
I don't know what is going on. So
creepy doll.
Right. November 28th, 13 days after her disappearance, both Aubrey and Bailey were named persons of interest. Oh, no. So they're showing up in the newspaper, there's people talking, and they had vanished the week earlier, obviously, when the cops tried to find them. Right after becoming publicly declared as persons of interest, both Aubrey and Bailey go onto Bailey's Facebook page and do a live where they talk about how they're innocent.
Wow! Wow! You're kidding me.
No! They basically go on, they're claiming, Aubrey first talks, and he's like, listen, I'm a criminal. I know that, you can look it up. He's like, I did not kill anyone.
I've done this, I've done that, but I didn't do this.
Right. And then Bailey talks, and she's like, yeah, the Lincoln police, they're already deciding that our fate, and this is America, what happened to guilty, you don't be
innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and they say the Lincoln Police Department they're basically crucifying them, and that they have ruined their lives already.
Oh no.
Then when Bailey talks on this live, she's like, oh, I did go on a date with Sydney, I am known as Audrey on Tinder. But we just drove around and we smoked weed, and then I dropped her off at a friend's house.
Okay.
Sure, without her purse and phone.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I mean, I've lost stuff, but
or your glasses.
But you don't leave all of your things.
No, you
don't lose all of your things.
No.
You might lose your glasses.
Right.
You might lose your phone. You might oh shoot, I got my wallet out at the gas station and I left it there, or I didn't pick up my card from the bar or whatever. But you don't lose everything.
Correct. So, she's like, yeah, that's all that happened. We're innocent. The video ended up backfiring on them, obviously.
Of course, because
people were posting on it no. And so what does Aubrey do? Because, he's so full of himself. He does a second video.
Oh,
no! He claims that they're not hiding. He's like, see, here's my face. Here's my hair. I have brown. I'm not hiding. La, 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 la.
For the gram.
Right. And then he says he's being convicted without trial by the comments. And shortly after the second video posts,
mercy.
Both of them are found.
Are they okay?
Yeah, no, basically, the cops tracked them down to some not so awesome hotel in Branson, Missouri.
Of course.
They end up arresting them on charges of fraud because they're still building a case to the whole missing Sydney thing. Plus, there's no body. But when they arrest them, they find they have maps, they have sleeping bags and hiking shoes, and then they find this detailed plan to escape to Mexico.
Maps is so kind of like vintage adorable. I'm like, oh.
Well, they need them if they're not going to be.
I know. Well, remember when you used to have to print that shit out?
Oh yeah. No. But when they get arrested, they still both claim they're innocent. While they're in jail, the police went to their phones and started tracking to see, well, maybe if we can track their phones, we can figure out where a body is, right? Right. December 4th, 2017. Okay. 19 days after Sydney's disappearance, they find her body, all right?
Okay.
In several places.
Oh,
Parts of her body are found off of gravel roads in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. They find trash bags, a trash bag in a ditch.
Oh.
They find 13 parts of her body. One is still missing as of today.
So she's not okay.
No. They could tell that a small saw was used, and it was very much like the one they had purchased.
Oh!
They found the bags had body parts, gloves, tarps, trash bags, and they also found a bleached bed sheet. Basically, they found 16 crime scenes.
Oh my gosh!
They had spread her all over the place.
16 is a lot.
Yeah.
And that makes it really, really, really hard to solve a crime.
Right. They also found her car keys, her wallet, and her phone. So the wallet, I guess, they took. They just left the purse at the apartment. And that did match up with Bailey and Aubrey's cell phone trail. So they're like, nope, this matches your trail, and this is where it is. So December 11th, 2017, a private funeral was held for Sydney.
Oh.
Okay, so now we know.
Her family has a chance
closure.
to kind of put her to rest.
Right. So now we're going to get to some confessions.
Go on.
January 24th, 2018, 2 months after Aubrey, after their arrest, after the whole incident, Aubrey ends up claiming full accountability for the killing. He does not want, he doesn't want Bailey to go to jail for this. He's going to try to claim it all. But every single time they interview him, he changes his story. He's like, no, I was just me. She had nothing to do with it. Okay, well, it was a sex act that went wrong, and I accidentally strangled her. Or, I do this filming thing where he would claim that he made, snuff movies for people.
Right, she wanted to be choked.
Right, exactly.
She liked it.
Right.
She was into it, and then it just...
Right. Never mind the fact that they purchased a whole bunch of things to dispose of body before she ever died. Right? So he just kept claiming all these different things. He's like, it was an accident. June of 2018, both Bailey and Aubrey were charged with first-degree murder and improper disposal of human remains.
Completely. Because even if things do go wrong, if you're getting kinky and this is what happens, fucking call someone. You
Right.
call 911. You
Go.
try to get medical intervention.
Exactly.
And if it's too late for medical intervention, then
you've covered yourself.
you call someone.
You call someone. Exactly.
You don't just welp, I guess we got to get rid of the body.
Right. So here we're going to talk about the trial.
Okay.
They wanted to give the death penalty. It also came out that there was also, during the trial, they found out there was actually several sex toys and collars and stuff like that. They were also in the bags with the dismembered parts.
Okay.
During the trial, several of his old witches came forward, basically just telling bad stories about him. They were all like,
he did the same thing.
Yeah, it's like he's a terrible person.
There, but for the grace of.
Yeah, so they were thankfully, not trying to support him. During this, they would share their experiences with Aubrey. One who lived with Aubrey and Bailey, a former girlfriend of Aubrey, Ashley Hills, she said that he, basically his sex cult was full of unstable women.
Oh, wow.
So that's how he would get them in. And she also said, yeah, Aubrey and Bailey talked about killing someone for a while. So this had been a topic they would bring up over and over again.
Wow. So the two of them were kind of looking for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
And also, then you also have all of these women that are competing for the favor and attention of this man.
And he's a terrible person.
And he's a terrible person. And so then you've got these two that are just we'll go the extra mile.
Yeah, but thankfully, when they went on the stand, they're like, yeah, no, that guy, terrible, just bad. Now, Ashley Hills did say that Bailey was basically the main witch, and she pleaded for his innocence. It's just crazy. Anyway, just before a witness was about to take the stand, Aubrey is sitting there. He's in a wheelchair for some reason. I was watching footage. I'm like, why are you in a wheelchair?
Of course, because he needs to seem weak.
Yeah.
So that he might get a little bit of lenient treatment.
So Aubrey yells, Bailey is innocent. I curse you all. And then somehow the person who's been arrested somehow had a razor blade and he stabs himself in the court in front of the jury in his own neck.
The guy in the wheelchair?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
I watched the footage. You just see some kind of people running away and people running to him. He doesn't kill himself, but they stop it immediately. You hear the judge stop the video, and then you see another footage of him being taken out to an ambulance.
Holy moly.
So he tried to off himself during the trial.
Uh-huh.
And they're no. They stop it. They put him in an ambulance. He misses half of the trial.
Oh, my
and he makes a full recovery. They do the trial on July 11th, 2019. I think the jury only took 3 hours. They end up convicting Aubrey of murder.
Oh.
And then they end up doing the same with Bailey. They convict her of murder a year later. The sentences are different for each. Aubrey was sentenced to death. Bailey was just basically given life without parole.
Holy Moses.
He is still currently on death row in Nebraska.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I was just what? When I saw the thing, I'm like, he stabbed himself in the neck.
In the middle of court.
Yeah, in court. I'm like, how in the world did he get a razor?
How do you get into...
You're coming from a jail cell into a court. How did he get a razor?
You know what? Honestly, I think it might be because he was somebody who seemed to have, a physical disability or some diminished capacity. It's all right, well, What, like some dude rolls in a wheelchair, you're going to check his socks?
Right. I don't know.
And so then...
Yep, no, he tried to off himself, but he's still alive. And he is on death row, and Bailey is serving time, and you
Aubrey.
know, unfortunately, poor Sydney, you know, it's just not... It does not sell dating apps. You know?
No, it certainly does not.
Yeah, you know, do your research. Mm-hmm. Do your research, so...
Which is what I did not do, because I wrote an entire story that Janet already did several months ago. So we're going to take a small break.
Right.
And then we're going to come back, and instead of 2 stories this week,
we're going to do
a Q&A.
Right. And then I'll end it with my what's nice.
Because Tracy fucked it up.
So we will be back with Q&A and what's nice.
We'll be back with Q&A and one what's nice. October 9th, if you are in St. Louis, and I know that we have Muddy Buddies all over the world, actually, like, hi, Kat. Thanks for being our Australian fan base. But October 9th, we are going to have a live show.
Yes, we are.
We are over at Third Space on South Broadway.
Yes.
First of all, if you are looking for a place to do any kind of artistic or creative endeavor, do look into Third Space. Also, October 9th from 6 to 9
6
p.m.
to 9, yes.
We are going to have our 1-year anniversary.
And it'll be a live broadcast.
It'll be a live broadcast. You can come and see us.
Yes.
We will give you hugs and kisses. We love you. We love you. We love you. And those of you that listen just like on the podcast, you're going to get to hear it.
Yes.
But if you are in St. Louis, then you could have cake.
You could have cake.
And hugs and kisses. 1 year of getting muddy with you all. We appreciate you. In the meantime, please do continue to, wherever you listen, give us 5 stars, give us a nice review, and if you are in St. Louis, come see us October 9th to get muddy for our 1 year Big Muddy reunion.
Yes.
All right, and we're going to get back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
And now we're going to do what's nice.
With Janet.
And then afterwards we will do our Q&A.
A little Q&A.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're getting into 50 episodes, which means that's like 100 different stories.
It's 100 different stories.
So it was bound to happen.
It was bound to happen. It's okay.
That I picked one that Janet already did a few months ago, and
it'll be fine.
So you get a little Q&A.
So now I'm going to talk about what's nice in Wilbur, Nebraska.
Okay.
So we are going to talk about the Hotel Wilbur. Mm-hmm. Hotel Wilbur is a historic hotel located in downtown Wilbur. This quaint hotel features uniquely decorated guest rooms to rent for your private event. And there's a dining room. The Czech seller, there was a lot of Czechs who basically moved to this in Lincoln. They moved to this area.
Right.
And there's an outdoor garden. Here's some pictures of it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, the Hotel Wilbur.
And then like old picture.
And I see that in the hotel lobby. It is, it looks as though it was built probably in like the 40s or 50s.
Yeah,
maybe?
right.
Or maybe even older.
I think it's older. But yeah, it's really neat looking.
Old enough, it's kind of one of those buildings where it doesn't look like anything is trying to be a style of the century anywhere.
Right.
So like a big brick building.
Yeah.
And also the little lobby looks like it is just cozy.
Right.
Like, all right, if you've got to be there and your room won't be ready for another hour or whatnot, you can set your hotel bags down and sit down somewhere comfy.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a little hotel. They really it's basically almost a historic site. You have the hotel, you have the guest rooms here. The guest rooms they're sponsored by people, so that's kind of neat.
Oh, what I love is that, okay, so the rooms look like they might be like a little bit outdated.
Yes.
But it also looks as though in many of the rooms there are those quilts. Mm-hmm. You didn't just buy them off of Temu.
No.
Those are all like handmade. Like, it's like your grandma made up
right.
a bedroom for you. You know, it's so sweet. It's so cozy.
But, yeah, it just looks like a neat place to stay. I would love to stay there at some point. Mm-hmm. So, but, yeah, it was just a short one. It's nice.
I like it.
There's some interesting information about the Czechs moving, populating that area. And I didn't really read into that, but I'm like, they have a museum that's attached to the hotel. They have.
Is it haunted?
I did not read any
seem to be.
No.
Well, now we have some place to haunt.
But that's my what's nice.
I love it.
I think we have some questions here now.
I love it. I was going to say I was going to do the Ronald Reagan home
for
what's nice.
Nice.
But I
did not do that for what's nice.
Which is not nice.
No.
He's not nice.
No.
Yeah. Anywho. Bump. This was our big Medi mess up.
That's okay.
This week.
So let's go ahead and do some
So now,
questions.
since I don't have a story, we are going to do a little bit of Q&A.
So
these are things that we've gotten from our listeners,
right.
and Janet and I are going to just kind of like riff on it.
Yep.
And talk about them.
So I'll ask a question, then you'll give me a response, and I'll give you my response to the same question. Where do you get your stories, Tracy?
You know, I was just asked this weekend when I was doing a food tour.
Cool.
I, generally speaking, I try to pick a location.
Yes.
First. And so I will just be like heist or like
right.
true crime.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will pick a state.
Oh,
like,
okay.
All right, true crime Ohio. Or heist stories in Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
Or funniest crimes in Arkansas. Or whatnot. So when we started this podcast,
yes,
you are more of like the crime person.
Yes.
I like to do things that are like a little bit like less murdery.
Right.
So I want the historical things,
yep.
or like the heist or the cryptid or
right.
whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, well, what are the spooky monsters in Oklahoma? And I generally tend to find my stories by Googling that.
Right, nice.
How about you?
So I find
Where do you get your stories?
I find my stories where I'll say I will just literally type into Google, true crime in the Midwest, or sometimes I'll look up something specific. I don't go to a certain area, but I try to just keep it in the Midwest by using the word Midwest.
Right.
Sometimes I use GP Chat because why not? Sometimes it gives you different answers.
Of course.
And then, of course, every once in a while I get stuck on the whole unsolved mysteries thing because I adored Unsolved Mysteries. I watched every darn episode of that show when it was out, when Robert Stack was still running it.
I love him. I love him. His voice is just like liquid.
Yeah. And so there's a few different ways, but it's mostly just me looking on the internet, and every once in a while, something will pop up and I'm like, I mean, we still do get, some people will give us ideas.
We love suggestions. By the way, please send them in. Send them in.
Exactly.
Even if we haven't gotten to them, believe me, they're on a list.
Yes, absolutely.
Of one of us.
So, second question.
Uh-huh.
How long does it take you to research these stories?
Woof. That's week to week.
Yes. Same here. Same.
There are some that take me a month.
Wow.
A couple of months. Well, the Dr. Kavanagh story.
Yeah.
I had that on my plate for literally probably 6 months.
Wow.
And then just like like every time that I wasn't sure what to do, you look at it.
Right.
And this, that, and the other. But I also know that there are days that we both have, like, it's Monday, we're recording on Tuesday.
Exactly.
I have 24 hours to put some shit together. And so sometimes we do that. How about you?
I'm kind of the same. I don't probably spend months on anything, maybe like a week. I'm better when I'm really good at procrastinating.
But you work best under pressure.
I do. And I'm like, and then it just flows right out of me. But yeah, that's kind of where I am, and that's never going to change. I know that.
The important thing is that we show up together, and in almost 1 year, I am the only one that is fucked up with the show that we have already done before. Oh, God.
Don't worry about it.
I'm so embarrassed.
So, third question. What do you hate to do for our podcast?
Do you want to go first?
Okay. I guess the only thing I hate to do, I don't think I have a thing I hate to do.
Really?
No.
For me,
I guess the little tiny thing is when I'm putting it together. I love putting it together, but the thing that I hate about it is sometimes when you put it together and you click on a button too fast, and you're like, oh, I have to redo that again.
Oh, no.
And you're like, but it's all recorded. I just have to start over again. That is probably the only thing where I'm just like, okay, I have to step away. I will do it later. It'll be fine.
My things that I hate to do.
Yeah.
Number one. So if it's a pet, I can't ever do it. If it's a kid.
Oh, yeah. Those are hard too.
Those are really rough. The only child story that I have done in the entire year.
Oh, I remember.
Is Jared Had a Darrow.
Yeah, yep.
And that is because it did end up, they did some beautiful things.
Right.
To make sure that, so like that one I felt like I had to tell.
Right.
But, oh God, if the dog dies,
I
can't do it.
Oh, I have a great if the dog dies story.
And if a kid dies, I can't do it.
Do you remember, Frankenweenie?
Yes.
Okay, and at the end where you're not really sure if Frankenweenie's going to live? I was sitting in the movie theater, and I went there with my son, and somehow convinced my parents to go to a cartoon movie with me, because that's not a thing they normally do.
Your parents will do anything.
I know.
I love Mama and Papa Brunner.
So we're sitting there, and my mom is sitting next to me, and she looks over, and I hear her say something like, looking at my dad going, "Are you crying?" And then she turns around to me and goes, "I think your dad is crying." And then Frankenweenie lives, and we leave, and I'm like, he wasn't like bawling. I think just a couple tears were coming out of his eyes. And when we came out, my dad was like, "If that dog would have died, I would have never gone to see another movie again."
Oh, completely.
He's like, "Nope."
Yeah. I can't do it. Like I said, yeah, like animals are like kind of a hard pass for me. There are many stories that I'm just
I
like,
have not found a story yet that I won't do. So I don't know. We'll get there.
I will also say there are 2 stories, and I've told you what they are, that I have personal connections to.
Right.
Where I'm like,
that's not happening.
No. Yeah. Can't ever, like, if you want to do them.
Right.
Maybe, but, like, but woof. Like, I will never touch them.
Now, my last question we've kind of already answered, but we can elaborate on it. What stories do you love to do?
Oh, gosh.
Or what do you love to do for the podcast?
For me? I know you do more of the murders.
Yes.
And what I love historical stories.
Exactly.
And I love, like, a heist which is why I almost did the murder, or the, like, and that's the thing, like, the story I almost did today was about, the heists in the horse heist.
Gotcha, right.
Rita Cranwell.
Yes.
Anyway, I love it when it's just somebody that kind of gets away with something.
Right. Yes.
And what I really love, particularly for me, is like if somebody gets away with something and they manage to just like steal a whole bunch of things from somebody that like has too much.
Right.
You know? I love it. I love a heist story. I love just like a bad boy story. I love somebody that manages to kind of skip around the rules.
Right, exactly.
And do something like that. And like that is my favorite.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think my favorite from story-wise is if there's a twist.
Yes.
A twist is always so important to a story. If it's just like, because there's so many things where you're like, okay, yeah, somebody got murdered in the city or whatever, and you look at it and you're like, there's no twist. It's just like, okay, it's a man and woman, they got into a fight, maybe the woman, shot him, maybe the man strangled her or something like that.
Right.
But there's nothing, it's just like, okay, they had a bad relationship. Where's the fun in that? You know what I mean?
Completely.
Right.
And I tell Ryder all the time when I'm like looking at stories and trying to pick, which believe me, all right, so we do this one time a week.
Yeah.
But like Janet, like I would say if we each do one story a week, I don't know about you, but I look at like 4 or 5 probably every week before I find before we find what we're going to bring to you.
Right, because you got to read into it before you even decide you're going to pick it. You're
and then like you get a little ways in and you're like, this is awful.
Right.
But yeah, what I try to do is one thing I always consider when we pick our story. Mm-hmm. Can I make her laugh? Exactly. I want that face, and I want to make you laugh.
Awesome.
And then I want to make you, like, really laugh.
Yep.
Like, all right, well, his wife killed him. But his balls were 3 times the size that they should have been. Or he was sleeping with somebody whose name was like Giant Vagina.
But yeah, that's really my favorite thing is a twist. I like a twist.
I know. So yes, I try to pick something that I know is going to make Janet fall out.
Right.
And, I think, honestly, I'm speaking for both of us now.
Uh-huh.
But I think that what we have done for this year and, what we really like to do is just to entertain you.
Yes.
And to entertain one another.
Absolutely.
And I love that I get to sit with, one of my good friends and talk every week.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a nice way to break up the monotony of anything. Mm-hmm. Because we're like, I get to learn a new thing today.
Right.
So,
And we share a nice snack.
Exactly.
And we sit down at the table and Blue is so good.
She's been sleeping.
I know. We won't have her at the live show.
No.
I thought about it, but I was like, that's a whole lot.
Right.
That's a whole other episode. But we really appreciate you, and we hope that you'll come and see us.
Absolutely.
On October 9th.
Right.
For our live show.
Right. But
and
there is one more thing we have to remind everyone of.
We do need to remind everyone, and that is Tracy, please check your episodes. So that you don't pick something that you've done before. And the second thing is that we do need to remind you to come see us on October 9th for our live show. And then our final thing that we need to remind people of, Janet?
Stay Midwest nice.
Stay Midwest nice.